This week, former Victorian Liberal Premier Jeff Kennett offered some advice to any incoming O'Farrell government. Mr Kennett was urging a display of transition to government cojones. Cojones is a Spanish vulgarism for testicles, used in American politics to indicate, among other things, political determination. Mr Kennett said that on coming to government in Victoria, he'd sack 16 department heads before lunch and 8 after, and urged Mr O'Farrell to follow suit with a list of replacement executives ready in his bottom drawer. Needless to say, his remarks have caused a stir. Is Jeff Kennett's advice relevant in New South Wales? Getting rid of departmental heads has not been a problem under the Carr, Yemmer, Rees and Keneally governments. Under Section 77 of the Public Sector Employment and Management Act, a politically motivated scapegoating phenomenon has emerged, with ministers able to sack senior executives without reason or notice. Last year on State Line, Jerry Gleeson, the Cardinal, former head of the Public Service under Neville Wran, said the state public service had been destructively politicised.
You can't give it today. Because if you keep giving frank and fearless advice that the minister doesn't like, you'll be out of a job.
So it's degraded the independence and integrity of the public sector.
I think so. This has been a process which really began with Greiner and carried on by Carr.
Peter Collins is a former Treasurer, Health Minister and Attorney-General in the Greiner and Fay coalition governments, now heading a government relations consultancy. He's closely watching the transition to government arrangements currently underway. Isn't Jeff Kennett right? Mr O'Farrell should immediately purge upper echelons of the public service, sack the lot of them to get culture change, hasta la vista.
Look, that was Jeff in 1991, 1992, but Barry O'Farrell has made it very clear he wants to be Premier for New South Wales in 2011, not Victoria 2 decades ago.
But how do you get culture change after 16 years where the atrophy within an administration obviously grows?
Look, Barry O'Farrell wants to re-empower the public service in New South Wales. He feels that under Labor it's been trampled on, it's been emasculated, departmental heads and officers have been sacked willy-nilly by a succession of Labor ministers. They've been beaten into submission.
Do you agree with Jerry Gleeson's assessment that the frank and fearless advice, which was a fundamental to Westminster practice of government in this state, has been destroyed?
I think Jerry Gleeson absolutely hit the mark. He probably knows the New South Wales public sector as well as anyone. He ran it very efficiently for a long time, and when the last transition to a Liberal government occurred, Jerry played a critical role in ensuring that transition went forward effectively, and that the new government was able to put in place an administration which was able to deliver its promises. I think that Barry O'Farrell is the beginning of a new cycle. That kind of sharp ideological approach that was taken by us in the Greiner government was now a quarter of a century ago. Barry O'Farrell represents a new cycle. I think he's far more pragmatic. He will look at what works best for New South Wales.
Does Mr O'Farrell have a hit list for a purge of departmental heads?
Well, if he does, I think it's very much to the contrary of everything he's said about the public sector to date.
Does he have a replacement list? You've been watching the transition to government.
Yes.
You may well have been consulted. Hey, have you got somebody, Mr Collins, would be a better Director General than this dud in this particular department?
I think before there are significant changes, he will be looking at what they've got to offer, whether they are prepared to step up to the job and implement the changes that are necessary to put New South Wales back in the #1 position.
Mr Collins, Directors General have asked me to ask Mr O'Farrell, so I'm going to ask you, will he repeal Section 77 of the Public Sector Employment and Management Act 2002, which gives ministers the power to sack senior executives without notice or reason?
Before I answer the question, let me say 2002 is the key message there. This was put there by this current Labor administration and it's been used ruthlessly and frequently and methodically.
I'm asking you, does every Director-General in New South Wales wants to know if that is going to be repealed?
Look, I don't know the answer to that because I'm not Barry O'Farrell. I can't answer that question specifically. But what I do know is he's promised a Public Service Commission. He's promised a Public Service Commissioner and to restore the integrity of the public service in New South Wales. So I think that's the most positive message that public servants in this state have heard in decades.
Mr Collins, thanks very much.
My pleasure.